Welcome back, everybody. My name is Conor McGilligan. This is, of course, the Conor McGilligan channel. We're back here talking Jobe Bellingham. Now, we spoke about this in probably January. We spoke about this last summer. If this guy can develop, he's going to get to a stage where Speakman does look at moving him on, regardless of the level that Sunderland are at. Jobe, in my opinion, has developed a lot this season when it comes to his defensive actions, but I think as well his passing, his versatility in the 6 and the 8 has greatly advanced as well, and he's deserved his move. Sunderland have harnessed him and developed him in a fantastic way, giving him as many minutes as they can and obviously investing in the boy's future when it comes to presses, when it comes to actually speaking about how good he is and where he could get to, which you've heard a lot of when it comes to Regis Lebris. But we're talking in this video about potential replacements for Jobe Bellingham. Obviously, Sunderland going into the Premier League, having to replace effectively those attributes which are so suited to the Premier League that Bellingham has. You know, he's big, he's athletic, he's physical, he's box to box. I think he can play in the 6 and the 8 if needed. And I think he's a goal threat. I do think there's a side of his game which can be developed into a goal threat. Now, it looks like when you're looking at Dortmund, they're going to acquire the signature of Jobe Bellingham, which is this exciting for Sunderland fans? I'm not 100% sure. Maybe not. Obviously, you're going to acquire a very decent fee when it comes to a transfer bit, which is obviously going to help your portion of money that you can spend in the window. Trey Hume is another one who's been rumoured away from Sunderland, Everton and Wolves. Sunderland just got to be a little bit careful, in my opinion, and I want the very best for Sunderland, of course, but Trey Hume in particular, and obviously Jobe Bellingham. Bellingham was an obvious one, but Trey Hume in particular, I think you've just got to be careful not to be picked off similarly to what Sheffield United were picked off when they came up a couple of seasons ago with Sander Berge and Iliman Ndiaye, who were perfect for the Premier League. And I think when you look at Jobe and you look at Trey, I think they are really, really decent for the Premier League. I think the Premier League pickups, and obviously you've seen some of the clubs that were interested in both when it comes to Dortmund, when it comes to Crystal Palace, when it comes to West Ham and others. And obviously now you look at Trey Hume and Wolves and Everton. But Bellingham, I think there are adequate replacements out there. And this video, we're going to get into some. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Some suggestions you guys have. Let's get into it. My first pick for Sunderland to replace Jobe Bellingham and replace some of his attributes is actually Matias Fernandez, who's just been relegated with Southampton, but that's not telling the full story. Ugachuk Wu, when you look at someone like Matias Fernandez as well, I don't think deserve to be on that relegated side. I think both were very good in their own right from that central space last season. Matias Fernandez, for me, is a very, very good footballer. Only bought for Southampton last season from Sporting CP for around about 15 million quid. Sunderland, with the capital that they have now, of which, you know, they're in a very good PSR limit as well when it comes to investing into the club. This and now the Jobe Bellingham money, which you're hoping can then be ploughed into their transfer budget a little bit. If it is 25, 30 million quid, Matias Fernandez, the portion and the pie is supposed to be in and around that money. You've got bags and bags of sell-on, which I know KLD will like, and obviously Sunderland will like when it comes to their model of turnover as well and sell-on fees. But also you got a player there who in and around the right surroundings, which I don't think Southampton was at all last season. He really shone. Southampton fans absolutely love him. And what I think he replicates when it comes to Jobe Bellingham, for me, is his ball carrying. And that is absolutely huge in the Premier League. Now, it's not all about, you know, his height and his athleticism. I think you can dot players around Matias Fernandez which compensate for that, of which I think Sunderland will do and look to replicate that of Jobe, because you need that. But this guy's quality when it comes to his forward passes puts him in the 80, 90 percentile when it comes to the Premier League midfielders. Alongside that, his defensive actions are very, very good off the ball. And once again, these progressive passes are going to be really important for Sunderland to get forward, to break the lines. And I actually think he can play really very similarly to Jobe. I think he can play in the 6. I think he can play in the 8 as well. So I think he's a really, really good replacement. Don't get too bogged down in the fact that he was relegated with Southampton. We've seen multiple players who've been relegated for certain sides who've been absolute treasures for others. I think Anton Stach would also be a really good replacement for someone like Jobe Bellingham. I think he dots around that midfield excellently well, even probably surpassing that of, when it comes to attributes, that of Matias Fernandez. I think there's a lot of key things which he replicates, which I think will be a huge advantage to that of the midfield composition. I mean, an Anton Stach and a Matias Fernandez in the midfield would be outrageous and would probably keep, in my opinion anyway, Sunderland up. But the progressive passes is there. His key passes are outrageous as well when it comes to percentile in the Bundesliga this season. His forward passes are off the chain. He can mould really into a bit of a number 10, but that doesn't really tell the whole story because his off the work stuff is once again exceptionally good. Defensive actions are off the charts when it comes to a midfielder. He's up in the top echelon when it comes to duels as well. And it feels like Sunderland are really going to get more for their money in the European market here when it comes to replacing Jobe Bellingham's attributes. We just spoke earlier on about Matias Fernandez and him being in this English pyramid and him costing a lot of money. I do wonder how much Anton Stach is actually going to cost and how comparable it would be to Matias Fernandez. Matias Fernandez, obviously, you get the experience of the Premier League, the acclimatization to the Premier League, and him already being here and wanting to stay here and wanting to be in the Premier League. Anton Stach is a little bit more of a anomaly. We don't know how he would be, how he would fit in, but all the attributes, all the data behind him tells you that he would fit into this Sunderland side absolutely perfectly well, seamlessly, does all the off the work and on the off the ball work and on the ball work really, really well. Will be a very, very good addition, in my opinion, for Sunderland. What do you guys think in the comment section below to someone like Anton Stach? Now, the next one for me, everybody's a little bit controversial. Now, I was going to mention Enzo Milo, who I think gives you a little bit more when it comes to an attacking sense. I think he's a little bit of an all-rounder, but I think he'd cost Sunderland a hell of a lot of money. And we spoke about Matias Fernandez potentially costing 30 to 35 million quid, but it'd been a real long-term investment and someone who I think will be in the national side very, very soon. He's really played his part in the under-21s recently, and I think he's going to be in that national side. We've obviously spoken about Anton Stach, who I think is definitely going to make that step up. Whether or not that's Sunderland, they could get a little bit of value for money there as well. I think that would work. I think he covers a lot of positions of which Jobe is very good at. But now kind of you can look domestically at someone like Mason Mount. Now, Man United have spoken about getting rid of him. They've spoken about having a little bit of a clear out when it comes to certain personnel. Mason Mount is someone else. Now, his wages will be through the roof. We all know that at Man United and what sort of club they are when it's giving out wages. Because someone like Mason Mount replicate that box-to-box player. I think when he's been at his pomp at Chelsea, in particular, his set pieces were very decent. I always think he's been a good ball striker. And could someone like him, we've mentioned as well, Henderson and him, according to a few reports, suggesting that he'd be happy to take a bit of a cut payment to play for Sunderland at this point in his career. If Henderson was in with him and you had Mason Mount maybe on loan with an obligation to sign, could that be a really decent signing and replicate some of the old goal-scoring tendencies that he had? You know, Mason Mount was a real threat in the box, but it's not worked for Man United. But Sunderland have absolutely dressed up and put into the shop window Amad Diallo. And so they will have a good relationship when it comes to loans with Manchester United. They will recognise that. And someone like Mason Mount might be a really, really good signing for them. Now, we know this season it's not been great, but I think you dot Mason Mount with a little bit of physicality, a little bit of license as well when it comes to other players doing other jobs. We know he can defend. We know his duels are very decent as well. It's just that final spot. So I wonder if Mason Mount will be a really good addition for Sunderland. And I wonder if that's something that they'd take up, everybody. What do you think? Let me know in the comment section below. So if you've got any other suggestions, Sunderland fans and general fans, let me know in the comment section below. Who actually can replace Jobe Bellingham? Can anybody replace Jobe Bellingham? I guess is the latter question. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Let's push on to 5,100 subscribers, everybody. We're nearly there. It's been an absolute pleasure. My name's Conor McGilligan, and I'll see you in a bit.